Hi everyone, you've probably heard at least once about a mysterious place called the Bermuda Triangle. They say that no ship or plane can escape that sea space between the US state of Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto. Since the 50s, people have invented many crazy theories about this place, from the mysterious emissions of methane to the machinations of aliens and the sunken city of Atlantis. But what is real about the Bermuda Triangle and what's not? Let's find out. Indeed, the Bermuda Triangle is famous for the many incidents that happened here. Take, for example, the disappearance of the American collier USS Cyclops 101 years ago. The ship was about 165 meters long. In 1918, it was carrying almost 11,000 tons of coal and more than 300 passengers on board, and suddenly disappeared without a trace in the Bermuda Triangle. Rescuers couldn't find any wreckage or bodies. The suggestion that the storm hit the ship by surprise was completely unreasonable, since the weather was clear on that day. On the other hand, given that this incident happened during the First World War, the collier could have been sunk by a German submarine. Germany has refuted this assumption though, but some people think that that's what happened. However, the main theory says an overload on a ship was the reason behind this tragedy. Okay, so that sounds reasonable. But if the disappearance of the USS Cyclops could be explained logically, then why is the Bermuda Triangle considered such a mystical place? Our next story might explain why. It happened in 1945. One sunny day, 5 US Air Force torpedo bombers took off and headed for a regular flight exercise from an airbase in Florida. At some point, all 5 planes and 14 crew members of the so-called Flight 19 disappeared from the radar. And a rescue plane, the PBM-5 Martin Mariner with 13 specialists on board, was sent to search for them. And guess what happened? The rescue aircraft also disappeared without a trace. The bodies of the crew and the wreckages of 6 aircraft were never found. Several attempts were made to discover their location, sometimes even allegedly successful, but the experts concluded that the wreckage found most likely did not belong to the missing flight. The story of Flight 19 has become one of the most mysterious tragedies in world aviation, and so the rumors and conspiracy theories ensued. In fact, ships and planes began to disappear here several centuries ago, and even Christopher Columbus wrote in his journal about the strange behavior of the compass in this sea region. But the Bermuda Triangle got its legendary name only in 1964, when the American writer Vincent Gaddis first used the term in his journalistic investigation into the case of Flight 19. His article turned out to be so mystical that it immediately gave birth to the most incredible theories: the existence of the third dimension, the abduction by aliens, sea monsters. People came up with all sorts of weird ideas, but we understand that only the ones who came back from there alive could know the truth, and until recently, it was believed that there were no such people. However, one pilot who survived the strange events in the Bermuda Triangle was found. His name is Bruce Gernon, and he revealed the long-awaited truth about this mysterious place. His story happened in December 1970. Bruce says that on that day, he, his father, and his business partner flew from the Bahamas and headed for Miami Beach in Florida. As soon as they gained altitude, a strange cloud of a semicircular shape appeared on the horizon. Perhaps the best decision would be to go around it, but apparently Bruce didn't have enough time to react. As a result, the plane flew right into the cloud, and then weird things started to happen. As the pilot recalls, the plane plunged into the darkness, pierced by occasional sudden flashes. One would think that the whole thing is St. Elmo's fire, discharges in the form of luminous beams that arise in the atmosphere with a high electric field, often before a thunderstorm. But experienced pilots and sailors know exactly how this phenomenon looks like, and according to Bruce, it was something completely different. When he collected himself a little, he saw a tunnel in the dark and miraculously managed to fly right into it. But the story doesn't end there. An eyewitness says that when the plane began to get out of the trap, strange lines began to form around it, rotating counterclockwise. Despite all the mess going on around, Bruce struggled to get out of the tunnel. He figured it would take him about 3 minutes. However, the plane also behaved weirdly. It covered this distance in just 20 seconds. It would seem that this story has a happy ending, but no. At the end of the tunnel, Bruce and his companions did not see a blue sky, but thick fog. They could only see 2 miles ahead. That is, it was impossible to see the ocean, the horizon, or a clear sky. Passengers suddenly began to feel something similar to weightlessness. All navigational instruments malfunctioned, the compass needle was spinning like crazy. It was complete chaos. Despite losing all means of navigation, Bruce somehow managed to contact the Earth and request his own coordinates. The ground control said that they simply didn't see Bruce's aircraft on the radar. The plane appeared on the radar again only when the fog had slightly dissipated. Turned out that during this time it covered twice as much distance as planned and was already near Florida. In 3 minutes, the aircraft flew about 150 kilometers. That is, it moved at a speed of about 3,000 kilometers per hour. This is faster than how quickly 5th generation fighters with supersonic cruising speed can fly. Bruce and his companions traveled all that distance in 47 minutes, although they flew the same route dozens of times and have never made it faster than in an hour and a half. Apparently, the instrument's readings are wrong, thought Gernon. When he landed, the pilot decided to check his fuel supply to verify his theory. Turns out that there was much more fuel left in the tank than he expected. This fact struck the already surprised pilot even more. How could this happen, and what was it? The most credible theory of what happened is large-scale vortex formations. Scientists believe that they can cause an abnormally fast movement in space, and the description fits the case. Such vortices usually create streams of very thin air, which form the unusual funnels. They're dangerous to both ships and aircraft, reaching a height of more than 10 kilometers. Gernon called this phenomenon the electronic fog. So we kind of figured out the strange natural phenomena, but how can we explain time traveling? Most likely it's due to the phenomenon called the curvature of space. A meteorologist, Dave Pears, explained how it works. He marks the point of departure and arrival at the 2 ends of the virtual sheet of paper. We see that there's a considerable distance between them. Now the scientist folds the sheets in half, showing the curvature of space, which most likely was the reason why Gernon reached his destination so quickly. And the crazy behavior of the navigation instruments can be explained by the influence of charged ionized air, which is caused by electrical voltage in thunderstorm conditions. Although there might be another explanation. The Bermuda Triangle, along with the Japanese Devil's Sea, is a unique place where the geographical north intersects with the magnetic direction of the northern meridian. This is precisely what might cause compass failure. Of course, all of the above explains the incident to some degree, but still not completely. Where do all of these strange vortices come from? Is it some kind of cyclone, giant waves, or a completely independent natural phenomenon? Here we have to introduce another scientific concept, so-called dark energy. Perhaps on that day, Gernon's plane encountered this energy, which made it go through an incredible experience. Dark energy is a hypothetical concept introduced by researchers to explain the expansion of the universe and its acceleration. Many scientists are certain that it exists, but still don't quite understand its true nature. Solving the equation for dark energy is one of the key tasks in modern cosmology. Why were the remains of ships and planes that crashed here never found though? It's known that the Bermuda Triangle is one of the deepest underwater trenches in the world. Most of it extends almost 6,000 meters below, and in some places the depth reaches 8,000 meters. By the way, not only air vortices, but also powerful undercurrents and coral reefs threaten ships here. Add to this huge waves which sometimes form here under the influence of the Gulf Stream. You must admit that this whole story gives a lot of room for fiction, exaggeration, and myths. Scientists have many different theories about the nature of the Bermuda Triangle, but one thing is certain: the disappearance of ships and aircraft in this region is in no way connected with intergalactic monsters and underwater creatures. In fact, the notorious Bermuda Triangle is one of the busiest crossroads in the world. Hundreds of transport routes go through it daily, and the number of incidents is almost negligible. Scientists say that being surprised by disasters that happen in this place is like being surprised by the number of car accidents that happen on the busiest avenue in a huge city. So if you ask us whether the Bermuda Triangle is a special place, we of course say yes. It's the spot where several natural phenomena converge, and under certain conditions, this can slightly increase the probability of an incident. Does this mean every ship or plane crossing this region is doomed? Of course not. Not even every 10th or every 100th. As life goes, people are prone to mysticism and exaggerating, which leads to creation of new absurd stories. Perhaps that's just a part of our nature, so it's not worrying about scary made-up stories. In most cases, science debunks these stories and the mysticism behind them.